Cuddling in the cold. Winter in Equestria. Certainly a sight to see. Watching the first snowfall and all the young foals run around in pure joy and play outside, the entire world's blanketed in fresh powder. It's all a wonderful thing to witness, but that's where the pros end and the cons begin. You'd almost forgot why you hated winter so much. Sure, Christmas or hearthwarming or whatever it is nice and all, but it turns out ponies had no fucking idea what insulation was, because they always have fur in fireplaces. But all you had was the fall clothes that you had purchased from Rarity a few weeks prior. You would have a fireplace, but Twilight, being the brainiac that she is, realized pretty early on that it wasn't a good idea to give you any form of fire or anything because of your occasional chaotic tendencies. Granted, you weren't a bad person, but fuck, this cold is about to drive you up the goddamn wall. Currently, you were laying in bed, wrapped as tightly as you can be in your blanket, and even then you were still freezing. You only had shorts and socks on, but that's because every time you work up the courage to throw a blanket off to try and get dressed, the cold weather says no fuck you, and you bundle up again within seconds. Didn't help that it was already getting dark and you were hungry as shit because you couldn't move all damn day.
Lucky fucking ponies.
You growl under your breath as you shiver. You swear when this is over you're gonna march into Celestia's throne room and personally demand you at least get decent insulation in your house. You couldn't feel your feet, or your fingers, or your nose. You were about to scream in frustration. Not being able to move was certainly getting on your nerves. You inhaled deeply, prepared to curse whatever higher power you believed in for trapping you in this winter-tortured land, but then you heard a knocking at your door.
Fuck,
he said quietly. You clutched your blanket tight and began to slowly slide out of bed. Once you eventually make it to the living room, shuffling as slow as you can as to not disturb the blanket and get even colder, the knocking continued.
I'm coming already, fucking hell.
You shout. Usually you were so nice to anyone that you saw, especially your new close friends, but today you couldn't give a single fuck if someone had paid you to. You unlock the door and crack it open just enough to allow an eye to see through to the outside world. You look down to where ponies would normally be. You were about twice their height, so adjusting to look down during conversation was an obstacle at first, but you couldn't see anything. You realized that whoever knocked on the door must have taken a step back, which means you're going to be forced to open the door enough to stick your head out and find out who it is. The first thing that you saw was a smooth pink mane covering the face of your visitor. There was only one pony it could be.
Fluttershy, what are you doing here?
You asked. She looked up at you, and your heart nearly melted. It warmed you up a little. She was so adorable. You've had a crush on her for several weeks now, but you just don't have the heart to tell her. You quickly invite her in, and shut the door tightly. Shivering, you put on your best smile and turn towards your guest.
So, Shy, what's up?
You say, shivering again.
You want some hot chocolate?
I'd love some, thanks.
Fluttershy said. You wasted no time in pouring some milk into a pot and turning on the stove. You used up the last of your milk, which could be a problem. It was way too cold to get out and get more. You might need to give a friend some money and have them do it. You sit on the couch, trying your damnedest to warm up a little. Fluttershy trots over to you and hops up on the couch next to you.
So, what's up?
You ask.
Well, you haven't come out of your house in days, Anon. I was getting worried. I came over here to see if you're okay.
The yellow Pegasus had such a soft voice, it almost put you in tears. Almost. You ain't no bitch. When she put a comforting hoof on your shoulder, you felt yourself be washed over with a quick wave of warmth before returning back to being miserably cold. You stood up and made your way towards the kitchen, before Fluttershy could see how affection-starved you were.
Yeah, well, you ponies need to learn how to properly insulate your houses. I've been unable to move because of this damn cold.
You added the chocolate to the milk and began to stir it around as it began to melt. Real chocolate, not the powdered stuff. Courtesy of Pinkie Pie, who you were 98% sure was gonna snap your neck when she saw you at the store about to buy instant hot chocolate. She hooked you up with a hefty amount of chocolate to last you through the winter. The chocolate began to melt at a satisfying rate, which is good, because you wanted to drink this and get back in bed. You heard as well as felt the wing beats of your fluffy house guest next to you, and...
Oh, Pegasus, I have fluff! Perfect!
The voice in your head screamed. You turned to Fluttershy and smiled.
Cocoa's almost ready. Go ahead and sit down. I'll bring out a couple of mugs.
Fluttershy flies back over to the couch, and you reach up to grab 2 mugs from the cabinet and your blanket falls to the ground.
Oh, fucking hell.
You thought it was secure on your shoulders, but apparently not. You shiver, the cold hitting you full force and shaking you down to the bone. You pour the hot chocolate into the mugs and hurry them over to the table. You set them on the table and Fluttershy looks at you before looking away with a squeak. Her face flushes red. Right, you're still shirtless. You rush over and get your blanket back on. Before sitting down, you took a sip of your hot chocolate and sighed in relief.
Oh, finally. Warmth.
You said.
Have you been cold all day, Anon?
Fluttershy asked.
Yes, I have. Nothing I do is warming me up because this house is not insulated.
You say before taking another drink. You You were so cold that your hot chocolate was actually almost gone already. You felt a wing place itself on your back, and look over to see your adorable house guest.
I'm sorry, Anon. Is there anything I can do to help?
That's the element of kindness for you. You take a deep breath and finish your drink.
I suppose being upfront and honest would be the best thing. Not unless you're down for cuddling. Maybe your fluffiness could do the trick.
You said. You stood up and stretched, your back popping in several places.
But hey, that's a you thing. I won't be mad if you said no. I'm laying down to try to warm up. Thanks for the company, Shy.
You said, as you walked towards your bedroom. You heard hoof steps following you, and you glanced over your shoulder.
Anon, wait!
Fluttershy said quietly. You stopped and faced her fully.
If I can help keep you warm, then I'll stay the night.
You barely heard the last part, but you still knew what Fluttershy was implying. You smiled and opened the door to your bedroom.
I'm glad to hear it. Come on then.
You motioned in, and she followed you. You got onto your bed and shifted into a laying position. You opened the blanket, wincing as the cold hit you again. Fluttershy hopped up onto the bed next to you and laid down as well. She pressed her body against yours and wrapped a wing around you. You were right, it was the softest and warmest thing you felt. You wrapped an arm and pulled Fluttershy as close to you as possible.
Thank you, Fluttershy.
You whispered. You were trying your hardest not to show it, but being as touch-starved as you were, it was getting to you, and you could feel tears in your eyes. You smiled at her, and the first tear fell from your eyes, and she smiled back. You tilted your own head down to hide your face from her, and try to maintain your breathing.
Anon, you're crying.
Fluttershy whispered with concern. You took a deep breath.
No, I'm fine.
You managed to get out before you shuddered and pressed back into her. You appreciated the warmth of Fluttershy cuddling with you, but you'll be damned if you end up pouring your heart out. You don't think she was ready to hear your feelings yet. You felt a hoof under your chin as she lifted your face to look into your eyes.
Anon, be honest. How long has it been?
What? I mean, I've been here for 5 or 6 months, so...
No. I mean, how long have you gone without basic affection like this?
She asked. She stared at you with that kind stare that you've learned to fall in love with. You took a deep breath and looked away.
Going on 3, maybe 4 years now.
You muttered. You were met with silence. You glanced up at Fluttershy and saw the complete disbelief in her eyes.
No, that shouldn't be possible.
Fluttershy said.
How could no pony even consider anything like this with you?
He shrugged.
No idea, but I'd try not to let it bother me.
I can tell it's bothering you.
Well, you don't need to worry your cute little face over it. I'll be fine.
You said, while you booped around the nose. Her face flushed red and she smiled.
You think I'm... cute?
She squeaked. You decided to make a move in an attempt to divert the subject from what it was previously.
Of course, Shy. You're the cutest mare in all of Equestria.
You whispered. Her adorable face got even redder, and she looked away. She was quiet for a few moments.
Thanks, Anon.
She finally said. This time it was her snuggling up against you, as she closed her eyes and began to drift off. You planted a soft kiss on the top of her head, and closed your eyes with a smile. The next morning, you rose from your slumber very slowly, but unfortunately you had to wake up. You were still holding Fluttershy tight, and you had no intention of letting go anytime soon. Her wings and her fluff are keeping you warm. She opens her eyes slowly and looks up at you. Damn, you wish you could kiss her, but you don't want to freak her out.
Morning, Fluttershy.
You whispered. She shuffled upwards to be eye level with you, and smiled.
Good morning, Anon. Did you sleep okay?
Best sleep I've ever had, thanks to you.
You said. Your faces were really close. Close enough to where you could feel her breath on your lips. You'd wagered that your lips were only mere centimeters apart. You were holding back so much. Fluttershy leaned ever so slightly forward and touched your nose with hers, rubbing them together with a cute smile. You hummed happily, and tightened your hold around her slightly, finally closing the distance and meeting your lips with hers. She gasped through the kiss and stood still for a second. Just before you were about to pull back in embarrassment, she leaned into you and began kissing back. You shared that affectionate kiss with Fluttershy for a few moments before she separated and opened her eyes. You did the same, and looked at her.
I guess that secret's out.
You said with a chuckle. She giggled, and leaned in to give you another quick kiss. You were finally able to feel your heartbeat again. It must have been going so fast that you couldn't even feel it.
I should go take care of the animals back at my cottage.
Fluttershy said. You nodded and got out of bed, swooping her up in your arms. She laughed as you walked across the house to the front door. You held Fluttershy in your arms at the door, almost sad to see her go. Almost. You leaned in and gave her one last kiss, which she happily returned before setting her down and opening the door for her.
See you around, Fluttershy.
You said.
Yeah, Hopefully you can stay nice and cozy.
Oh, don't worry about that. I think I've found a way to stay warm. Come back over soon? I still have hot chocolate to be made.
He smiled. She nodded and turned away.
I love you, Fluttershy,
you said as she trotted off. She stopped and turned to you.
I love you too, Anon.
And with that, she spread her wings and flew away. You shut the door and smiled. You finally confessed to Fluttershy after months of liking her. What's better is that she liked you back. You two will have time to talk and discuss things later, but for now, you began to get dressed up and prepared for a trip to Rarities. You were gonna have to buy some thicker winter clothes. Who would've knew that the secret to love was a little bit of cuddling in the cold? Definitely gotta agree that cuddling in the wintertime is the best. Now how about we head on to our comforting donators. Top donators are 630, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, and Only One Thing. TacoCat598, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Rollins, CrazyKiller557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyrae, Chris, Twinkie, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, RuneScythe9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, Lenga12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hadzaza, Conver, and many more super warm people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.